Alright.
I've given myself the challenge to do an online art show every month this year. 12 months, 12 shows. My goal is to explore the links between us, you and me, how we grow, live, learn and decay, compared to the similar relay going on in nature. And to do this by following the seasons through a whole cycle: winter, spring, summer and autumn. It's all inspired by a book I have on the body, where there's a scan of the human heart showing the veins and capillaries looking exactly like branches in a tree. It blew me away, and I've not looked at trees the same way since. I decided to base a whole project around it. But I'm not a nature buff. I've no idea what to expect from the changing seasons. I'm going to learn a lot and fail a lot and hopefully make some interesting pictures along the way. These amazing patterns. Now, I don't live in a particularly stunning part of the UK. It's lovely, but it's pretty flat, standard English countryside in Oxfordshire. There's woodland outside my house, which I'm very fortunate about, and there's a motorway passing right through it. But that in itself is also quite exciting. It's what whizzes past commuters every single day. And I'm interested in that kind of unnoticed right under our noses, so to speak.
This train is for London Marylebone.
I like drawing. It helps me see and understand much more than taking a photo. But I'm also not overly interested in realism in the sense of direct representation. I love quick gesture sketching from life, so I wanted to be out in nature and do lots of that. But I also want to bring in loads of new mediums to this and try and use everything I can to capture the essence of us and it.
Come on.
I can try and explain what I mean when I say it or essence, but it's not some wanky conceptual art jargon, I promise. I don't like that. If the essence is baked into it, no words are needed. I believe you should judge artists by their work and ignore every single artist statement you've ever read. And that means ignore everything that I say, especially if what I produce doesn't stand on its own 2 feet, no matter what fluffy words I cake it in. But that doesn't mean that I don't like the ideas of postmodernism or deconstructing concepts. I just think that that mindset is far more rewarding when applied to walking in the woods than in any art gallery. As all grand narratives crumble to Mother Nature, it's just when artists hide under that, I find it a bit boring. Good artists capture something hidden and present it within the artwork. The easiest and most obvious example of this when it comes to nature is Van Gogh. You don't need to see one of his paintings of a field of olive trees in the south of France to know that those trees are beautiful in real life. You can go and see them with your own eyes or grab a photograph. Yet in both of those ways of looking, it's only about the trees. In a Van Gogh painting, you're not reacting to them at all. It's got nothing to do with olive branches and how they sway in the sun, and everything to do with his emotional response to that scene, felt and skillfully shared with you. It's because Van Gogh felt the beauty of nature so intensely, to the point of insanity, and had the skill to represent it, that his work has its legacy. Many people love the great outdoors without loving art. But I think it's only art, be it painting, fiction, music, dance or poetry, that can communicate that love. As someone who draws and paints, it's how I understand and learn about my own feelings towards people, nature and myself. Van Gogh did once say in a letter to his brother, however, that nature always begins by resisting the artist. But he who takes it seriously does not allow that resistance to put him off his stride. On the contrary, it's much more of a stimulus to fight for victory. It's a great quote. And on this rainy, grey January day, by a seemingly lifeless pond next to a motorway, I have to say that nature doesn't feel all that accessible. Sketching in January isn't great on your fingers. And frankly, 100 years on, his sketches of peasants working through the thawing frost still fascinate people. In my damp seat and cold toes, I do wonder if he'd find the same inspiration in the billion dog walkers of today. Because of the biting cold, I found myself taking photos to work on in the warm. With these ones, I thought I'd found something. Nice line. It felt kind of like there was something I could really go on it. But then, looking at them again today, they just feel a bit too mechanical. Yeah, I need to get that kind of sketchiness back, and these were done inside. And there was definitely something about the rushed, shivering sketches done outside, as annoying as they were, that felt a lot more like winter. Fuck's sake. The cold also made me work faster, trying to capture the scene in the least possible marks. Graphite swipes to really get the kind of gritty greyness, and I started to look more away from trees and more into skies and shadows. David Hockney talks about really looking into shadows, how they're full of purples and hues of red and blue, and after a few days of fingering charcoal with numb hands, I needed to bring in some colour, if anything just to warm myself up. Graphical pens and Poscas quickly reminded me, with a bit of a start, how easy it is to pop colour into a sketch, but it all felt a bit too plastic and inky. I needed something that was a bit more natural. I've not used colour pencils much, and I was hoping that the kind of earthiness of them, they're made of wood, they're kind of got this biting brittleness, that there's something in the medium would resonate more with the kind of scenes that I'm depicting. But I also thought, who can't use coloured pencils? Well, it turns out, me. As the next morning, I went out early and noticed an amazing pattern where the sun hits tufts of grass. Everything in the sun is melted, and everything in the shadow is frosty. And I pictured flecks of yellow over green on one side, and then this kind of wavy change to frosty whites over blue on the other, yet I'm clearly too used to working with mediums that have opacity, as there was no way I could do white over blue with these crayons. New medium's always a gamble, but that is what I want to try and do with all of this. However, I got increasingly frustrated at Hockney's idea that there's so much colour in the UK winter. There may well be, I did start to see it, but by depicting colour, you're adding a vibrancy to a winter scene, and there's nothing vibrant about an overcast day in the English winter. It's not even winter, it doesn't snow. It's just so fucking grey, it's almost oppressive. So 3 weeks in, I felt very much like this first month was going to be a dud. I lit the fire, I made a coffee, and I reassured myself I'm doing this all as an experiment. If I knock it all out the park in a month, I'm probably not taking enough risks. So I closed all the books, I hid all my previous sketches and the photos I took. I remembered the quote of the great British landscape painter John Constable when he said, "To make a sketch of nature, the first thing you do is forget that you've ever seen a picture." And I'm not sure if it was embracing a childlike carelessness or just the comfort of warm fingers by the fire, but finally, I was having fun. This first month took me in so many directions. And I'm happy now in the idea that I've got 11 more months of this. Looking forward to February.